We are what we wear. At least, many voices in the media seem to think that. Just look at all of the attention First Lady Michelle Obama's wardrobe has received since her husband became a contender for the presidency. A simple internet search with the words Michelle, Obama, and dress returns more than 1 million results. Yes, that's right, 1 million results. Mrs. Obama is an accomplished professional woman. She is a lawyer trained at Harvard Law School. And still, most Americans probably know more about the red and black dress she wore on the night her husband won the election. Of course, the way we dress is important and affects the way others perceive us. And many would agree that Mrs. Obama has a sense of fashion. But is that all that matters? If the media is to be trusted, it appears so. But what then are to make of the huge internet popularity of frumpy, haggard Susan Boyle, whose appearance on Britain's Got Talent challenged those standard views on dress and body image? This Scottish lady pushed through the image barrier and demanded respect for her singing talents. Thousands were awed by her performance and touched by her Cinderella-like story. But is her experience just one more reality show gimmick? Does this happen in real life? SCAD Atlanta fashion professor Sarah Collins recognizes that, in real life, it is hard not to be noticed by what we wear.
Naturally, we form an opinion on somebody very, very quickly, and it's hard to reverse that opinion. So in business, when you meet somebody, that's the first thing is just what we see. So you form an opinion oftentimes on the person's capabilities by what they appear to be. If it's very sloppy, if the clothes don't fit properly, if they're not well groomed, you think that they must be sloppy in their business dealings, or they don't pay enough attention to details. So that can kind of come across very quickly.
She also notes that some professions, such as fashion, the performing arts, public speaking, and entertainment, tend to be more demanding.
In fashion, I always say it's a little bit unfair, but people judge us very quickly by what we're wearing, how good we are at our jobs. Certain jobs like accounting, not as much. They're not going to look them up and down and go like, oh, they can't do accounting, look at what they're wearing. But you get that in certain like fashion, actors and actresses, singers, and I think that's where the Susan Boyle comes in, that she did not appear to be an entertainer. And you know, just the way her appearance, you just thought, this woman can't possibly be able to sing. And I think that may be why she didn't find success until so, much further into her life than some others. You take a look at these musicians who've been kind of put through the factory, and you can see like before pictures and then the after pictures, and they've been plucked, waxed, groomed, dyed, put through training, personal training, and a whole stylist boot camp, and come out the other end in a look, a package. And I think in entertainment, yes, you have to look a certain way to be successful. And so that's why her story is so exciting. And a lot of what you read, people are saying, I hope they don't do that to her. I hope they don't, pluck her eyebrows. I hope they don't change her hair, because there's something just kind of like an underdog and something really endearing about her, that she's a normal person, that this isn't one of those prepackaged Pop-Tartlets that we've been seeing recently.
Rashad Freeman, a graduate photography student from Durham, North Carolina, disagrees. For him, one's dress and appearance is all about personality.
I feel like if you stay true to your style, it'll catch on. You can wear like a potato sack if you want. If you have swagger with it, I promise you'll drive down the street. I think nowadays, pretty much, you can wear whatever you want. And it's just certain things that people say, you know what, I like that. I'll make that popular, yada, yada, yada. You have your goth look. You have your hippie look. You have your, I just don't care look. You have your, I'm wearing like, clean suits and, fresh sneakers all the time. That particular looks.
Adam Williams, a visual effects fourth-year undergraduate student from Kansas City, would agree with Rashad to a certain extent. In everyday life, he has his own dress code. But he acknowledges that there are times in his professional life when he has to set his own style aside and make concessions in his appearance. Even people outside of the fashion industry recognize that sometimes there are rules for dress that must be followed.
Sometimes my pants hang off my waist a little bit, but I think that's okay. But when it's in certain situations, you should know when to turn it off. It's like I wouldn't go into a job interview with my pants down or my hat backwards, or I wouldn't have on a hat going into an interview or something like that. But I mean, first impression, that's your main goal. You step into a room, somebody sees what you have on, what you look like, and then they make their assumption. If you walk into a room and don't speak, nobody knows you. So your clothes speaks for yourself.
The reason behind all those rules, according to Professor Collins, is anthropological.
Fashion and how we adorn ourselves does allow us to kind of play different characters, be different people on different days, to kind of address different situations. Clothing is used for so many different reasons. There's ceremonial uses, religious uses, protection, but the number one, status is another one, but the number one is decoration. We as humans, even in the, tribes that are nudists, have to decorate themselves in some way. We are always striving to communicate through language, through art, through music, through writing, through just about everything in who we are. We're trying to communicate ourselves, who we are, and fashion is just one of those venues that we can express ourselves.
She believes, however, that it's possible to keep one style and still impress people. Maybe we can take her piece of advice as a final lesson.
The reality is that we are judged based on our looks, and in terms of interviews, job perspectives, in terms of any kind of business, it really does help to look good. And I'm not necessarily saying to be everybody's idea of perfection, they have to look like a model. I'm just saying that well-groomed, well put together. So I think that people can maintain their sense of personal style if the clothes fit right and are flattering to their body. It's where, like I was saying, if it's very sloppy or it doesn't flatter the person, it makes them look a lot bigger than they are, or if it's way too tight and bits and parts are hanging out or way too emphasized, that people are going to judge you differently. Again, they kind of relate what you look like to what you're capable of doing in business. So in order to maintain your personal style, you need to be able to say, okay, this is my style, but the clothes I wear need to fit a little bit better. You can still be a little bit funky. You can still be outside the realm of the trends. You can still be who you are, but it just has to be kind of like a cleaned up, better version of who you are.
I am Luis Coelho for SCAD Atlanta Student Media.